Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't know what time you decided to stop by, but I'm sure glad you did. Welcome to Confessions. I'm your coach, Nikki G. I'm not your typical coach. I'm here to help you grow your emotional, mental, and spiritual muscles. Those muscles are so important because it's going to be a time in your life that you need those muscles to be able to fight your inner demons. I like to call them the enemy. Now, today I want to speak to those who are sick and tired of being sick and tired. I want to speak to those that are ready to take their power back from certain situations that has you bound to certain behaviors. Now, let me say that in another way. I want to speak to those who are tired of being depressed, tired of dealing with anxiety, tired of having these addictions, tired of having insecurities, and you're ready to take your power back from these things. These things have you doing things that you don't want to do, ending up in places that you do not want to be. It's time for a change. If you're still listening to me right now, you're ready. And this is the first step to acknowledge that you're ready. So today I'm going to discuss how unhealed trauma and addiction are hand in hand. You have to heal within before you can move forward. It's important because once you don't heal from within, you create these coping mechanisms that are not healthy for you. A lot of them are unhealthy. Now, unhealed trauma can silently fuel your addictive behaviors. The pain, memory, and scars linger beneath the surface, whispering their influence on your choices. So, that fear or whatever that you're running from is guiding your actions, causing you to do things that you ordinarily wouldn't do. Now, the good news is healing is possible, but it's not an easy process. And with the right mindset, a made up mindset, you can overcome anything. Nothing is impossible. Remember, God did not give us the spirit of fear. He has given us the spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. So with that, you already have the power to fight these fears, addictions, depressions, or whatever it is that you're fighting with. You have the power and the sound mind to do it. It's up to you to use it. God has put it in you. Today, my guest is here to share her story of how she overcame her addictions and how she overcame obstacles in her life. She's a mother, a sister, an aunt, and more importantly, a warrior over addiction. Sheila, how are you?
I'm great. I'm just doing just fine. Just so grateful, so blessed to be here. I'm just full. I'm just, I'd rather have my worst day sober than my best day high.
All right, so let's get to this story. These unhealed traumas that you may have had that may have caused your addictions. When did it start?
It started at the age of 8. Some things happened in my life that was not of my own making. Fear set in. Well, I was a little girl. Of course, fear was going to set in. And I started to learn that I love you meant I hate you. And so I never really fully knew what love was, because from that age all the way to growing up and getting into an addiction eventually, I saw that people said I loved you, but they were brutal. They were monsters. They were woman beaters. They were sexual predators. They were rapists. They were people who didn't know how to love themselves, and so the love that they thought that they had, it wasn't really love. It was really hurt, and it was really hate, and they imposed that on me.
So at an early age, your upbringing, you had to experience all the things that you just said.
Yeah.
When someone says I love you, their definition of love equated maybe assaults or physical assaults, sexual assaults. I mean, different things that were not healthy at the time.
Yeah, I
But
ran into that. I ran into that as a little girl, with strangers and the like, and instead of me saying something, those type of people have a way of embedding fear in a young person's heart. It's either I'm gonna kill you, or I'm gonna hurt the person that you love, or I'm going to, it's your fault, and they make you believe that everything that's happening to you is your fault. And so I grew up basically believing and protecting someone who I didn't want to be blamed for what was happening to me. I actually became the victim, and that person became, I don't know who they became, but I just know that I became the victim, and I kept it inside for a long time.
so now, small Sheila at the age of 6 was dealing with these different things.
8.
At 8. Sheila at 8 was dealing with the little girl Sheila.
Yeah.
Now let's speed. Well, there's no speeding, but let's fast forward to maybe a 16-year-old Sheila. At this point, where are you at mentally and emotionally?
Mentally and emotionally, starting to smoke cigarettes. I'm starting to have Thunderbird wine, and me and my friends down the street, we are seeing who can drink the fastest. I'm experiencing hangovers. I'm experiencing, due to that, I'm really experiencing trying to meet the first guy I can, because when I'm 17, and I'm 18, I'm moving with them, because I got to get
Away from your.
I got to get away from everything. And so that was my mindset. And at the age of 17, 18, that's what I did.
So that was your, what we would say, a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
You were amongst other kids. Now, were they in the same predicament like you were, or they had their own problems? I'm assuming, since y'all all were drinking and smoking. So that I would say that would be a coping mechanism amongst the group. So now that you're at 17, you're drinking and smoking. If anybody know what Thunderbird is, that's just pure alcohol.
Yeah.
Pure alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now that let's move on. You're drinking, you're smoking. Now tell us about your first relationship.
So my first relationship, and I'm gonna share this because a lot of things that happened played into the way my life turned out to be. Mm-hmm. First of all, to back up, at the age of 16, I met the love of my life. And he was 18, and his name was Ray. And so I was kind of kept in the house, not able to go anywhere or do anything, but my mom had told my dad, this girl is going to get out of this house. You're not going to keep her in the house, and she can go. So they let me go with Ray and his mom and his dad, and we went fishing, we went crabbing, and I became pregnant. at 16. And so Ray was very happy. I didn't know much about it. I was 16, but I loved him, and I knew that. And I knew that he made me happy and his family made me happy, and I was glad that my mom allowed me to go. And so I got pregnant, and I told my mom, and my mom left it up to my dad to, my dad said no. And my mom and my oldest brother took me to have an abortion. And so Ray's cousin around the corner, I shared it with her, and she told him, and I remember him coming in the driveway at my house, and he said, "You were pregnant, you had an abortion?" And I said, "Yeah." And I saw the tears in his eyes, and he called me a baby murderer, and he left. And we broke up, and he wound up dying in a car accident years after that. But I hate I made that decision. You know, if I just could have stood on my own 2 feet and said, "You know what? I'm not gonna do this. I'm moving out, and I'm moving with Ray, and I'm moving with his parents, and I'm not gonna do that." Or if I would have talked to him about it, but I didn't, and that was a big downfall for me, something that I carried and resented for years and years and years and years.
But I'm going to give you another scenario. You were 16. You didn't make the decision. Someone else made the decision for you. So you can't carry that guilt and that burden. You didn't make that decision. You wanted your baby. Deep down, you really wanted your baby. But you didn't make that decision. Someone else made it for you, and you were just doing what someone else wanted you to do at the time. You were 16. It'd be different if you were 30, older, but you're 16. And for me, I had similar situation. I had to give my son up for adoption. I didn't want to do that. I had to tell myself that it wasn't my fault. Everything that transitioned that time in my life was not my fault. I was 16. I was just doing as I was told. But I don't regret anything because that's part of my story. But you can't hold that burden because you weren't old enough to make a decision.
Yeah, but I blame myself for a lot of things because that was basically my story all my life. I didn't say nothing. I didn't stand up. I let other people dictate what my life was going to be. And for the first time in my life, for the past 9 years, I don't let people dictate my life. I let right people dictate my life. I don't let wrong people dictate my life.
Yes.
Because although my mom and dad probably thought that they were making the right decision for me, I don't feel that it was the right decision. But even with everything that always happened in my life, even through marriages, abusive marriages, people drinking, and turning into a gorilla, on me, I never had a say-so, period. Even had husband told me, "You'll never be able to tell me what to do." So I just kind of feel like I had a lot of resentments later on, and resentments was about me, and they were about God.
So at the time when you were making these decisions and you said that you felt like you didn't stand up, you didn't realize the inner power that you had within. It was buried. You let fear control you. Fear of this, fear of that. Fear will control you until you realize the power that you have within you that God has given you. It's not until then that you will be able to move forward. And that's my story. So you got to think about it. You experienced trauma from 8 years old. Now you fast forward to 16. still trauma. You still going through things. Then we're gonna transition maybe to what, your first marriage?
We're going to transition to, yeah, I guess it would be the first guy I met. And, well, not the first guy I met, but the next guy after that. I said, I'm going to the first person I meet, I'm getting away from here, and I'm getting out of this house, and he was alcoholic. And so in my in me growing up, I made bad decisions. Mm-hmm. I made decisions and met people and got with people who were role models for me when I was young. Alcoholics who drank, who stumbled all over the place, who tore up stuff, and that's the kind of man that I was attracted to. And so I wound up having 4 kids with this man. And during our time, I got introduced to crack cocaine at the age of 22.
Now, how did you get introduced to cocaine? We already know you started drinking at an early age. So I'm assuming y'all were drinking together, probably.
We were drinking together, yeah.
So how did you transition over to the drugs?
His sister had a real good job at at BMI or something like that. It might not be the right name, but she had a real good job. And I walked in the room. I stayed with him and her, and I walked in the room and I saw her smoking cocaine. I saw her smoking, and this was in 1982. Mm-hmm. I saw a glass bowl and I saw smoke twirling in it. And she had a good job, and the smoke looked pretty. It was twirling around, and I said, let me hit it. And she did. And I got sick. I got so sick. I had to go to the bathroom, use the bathroom. I was throwing up and doing all this at the same time while I'm using the restroom. I'm vomiting. And so it just shows me that it didn't agree with me. But although it didn't agree with me, I didn't stop doing it. I kept doing it. And then...
Why? Why did you keep doing it?
Because it made me feel good.
Did it make you vomit and puke each time, or just that first time?
It was just like the first or second time. It was freebasing. It was basically crack cocaine, but it was more pure because it was in 1982, and it was more crystallized. And I'm not going to glamorize it, but it was more. You could just add baking soda with it and make up your own stuff, and put it in a bowl and fire one in the bottom of the bowl and light a torch and just smoke, and that's what. And I got addicted to it.
The feeling that you got after.
The feeling I got.
So it was stronger than the alcohol.
It was stronger than the alcohol. And I think, after a while, alcohol wasn't even important no more.
Yeah.
It was just that. And then, but early on, I was always trying to, you find yourself smoking weed. I found myself smoking weed. And then, back in the day, it was RJSs. Those were Black Mollies. And then, came the crack cocaine, which was the freebasing. And then it was the alcohol. It was the beer. So I was always finding myself trying to mellow out by using this with this, or this with this, or this wasn't good enough. I needed some of this to go with this. And so one thing just turned into another one, and I found myself addicted to basically everything.
So you guys, I want you to really think about it critically what she just said. Her trauma started at a young age. She transitioned all the way up to adulthood, and it's still unhealed trauma there. But it just goes to show, if you're not taught how to deal with your emotions, that it will trickle into from your childhood all the way to your adult life if you don't do something about that trauma. Now, as a child, you don't know what to do. It's really left up to the parent or some adult. Some of us don't have an adult that we can trust, or we're scared to say anything. So I'm hoping with these podcasts that I will break generational curses of being quiet and not saying anything. It's time for us to speak up. It's time for us to be the voice of the people that are silent, that cannot speak. No matter what you say deep down, if something is going on with someone you love, God's going to reveal it to you. And if they say ain't nothing going on, it's up to you to keep pushing until you get that person to tell you what's going on. We cannot afford any longer to push things under the rug. Because what happens when you push things under the rug? We're listening to it right now. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about 1 Corinthians. That's one of the verses that I picked. Do not be deceived by bad company. It corrupts good morals. You started out with the group that was drinking and smoking cigarettes. And then you transitioned to another group that was on a whole nother level. But nobody in that group took a minute, a time, or nothing to work with you to ask you what is going on with you. Why are we doing these things? Because y'all all doing the same thing. The
Right,
dark with the dark.
They couldn't, because they were a part of the lie. They was a part of the pain, and they was a part of the lie. And then at one point I said, you know what? These people that are out here on the streets with me, they've been through the same stuff, abusive marriages. They've been through the same stuff as me, and that's why they're out here. So we out here together, and they understand while I'm out here. And I really started, making excuses, making it okay for me to be on the streets of Houston.
So so once you started using, were you homeless? Was you still with your husband? Were y'all doing it together, or how did?
We were doing it together, and I had kids that were in the home, and I found myself they were eating, but they were eating simple stuff that didn't cost much money, I think the ramen noodles had came out, and I would get a chicken, and I would boil the chicken, and I would mix ramen noodles in with it, and get some orange drink or something like that. And, they were eating, but they were not taken care of like they should have been taken care of. And so they went to my mom's. And so, but I remember one specific time that things got so bad, I wanted to go there to my mom's with them, and, I took off running, and their dad took off running behind me, and when I turned around, he was picking up something off the ground, and he threw it. And when I saw him throw it, I put my hand behind my head, and it was a bottle. It was a glass bottle, and it hit my hand. And that's where I get these stitches from right here. And so my whole hand was wrapped up, and, I still didn't go to my mom's. I just stayed there, and I let my kids stay at my mom's, and things were just dark for me. It was just the beginning of a lot of darkness, because I had all of these things that had happened. I wasn't working on them. I wasn't telling nobody about them. It wasn't anybody that I felt like that I could confide in. I don't know if I thought that maybe they wasn't going to believe me, or maybe they were going to blame me, and so I just kept it to myself. But in the midst of that, that was always a window and a door open for me to continue to drink and use, and just drink and use, and just throw my life away. I did it.
And tell us, how many years did you do that?
30 years.
30.
30 years off and on.
Jesus.
I lived on the streets of Houston. I had a resentment. For 30 years, I carried a resentment, and it almost killed me. And I lived on the streets of Houston. I mean, I've been through so many horrific situations. God would clean me up, and I have a scenario of my life. Like, God would clean me up. I would be doing good. All of this guilt and shame and resentments was always there, but it would crop up. It always cropped up. And there was a black hole right there in the ground. And be walking down the street, looking good, smelling good, doing good. And all of a sudden, there goes my black hole right there. Without any thought, I would just jump in. Next thing you know, I'm back on the street. And so basically, that's how my entire life has been. Just turning my back to the black hole, and just without any thought, just jumping in from the back. Just, I
That's relatable with. It's relatable on so many levels. A lot of us, we may not use drugs, but we have an addiction. And I'll use food. For me, I had a food addiction at one time because I wasn't dealing with my emotions. Food was my go-to. I was up to almost 300 pounds at one time. So that was my black hole.
Yeah.
I'm over here. I'm not in peace. I'm over here dealing with this toxic relationship. My kids out of control. My husband out of control. My family out of control. And the only thing I know to do was eat.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. I ate. Or I shopped.
Mm-hmm.
It was so bad at one time I couldn't even breathe, but I was steady eating my emotions. So these addictions and the black hole that you describe, if you're watching me right now, look in the mirror. What's your black hole? Because we all got one.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to tell us something horrific that may have happened to you while you were on the streets? Or what was the last thing that may have happened to you that you said, God, I'm ready to turn my life around. I can't do this anymore. Let's do that.
Well, I had a lot of horrific things happen to me. But each time they happen, I would go to a safe haven and I would be quote unquote okay. And then I would go back. It's like a dog going back to their vomit. I would go back to the same stuff. So, I mean, I've been put in trunks of cars and driven around. I was 8 months pregnant and was selling drugs on, in Sunnyside, Yellowstone and Calhoun back in the day, and the car took off that I was selling drugs to and knocked me to the ground. The back tire rolled over my ankle, broke my ankle. I was 8 months pregnant. I had my feet in a stirrup. When I had my baby, I had to have an epidural. None of my family was there. I just remember laying, in the bed at the hospital, just laying on my side, getting the epidural, and feeling the needle go in, and the doctor saying, you moved, it didn't work, we're going to have to do it again. And, just...
Just in that place, in this cycle.
And, I remember, being with a truck driver for days, and I had made a decision that I was just, going to go to California. My life wasn't no good here. And God kept that truck here for 3 days. Something was always going on with the truck where we couldn't leave. And the night before we were getting ready to really leave, I got him to take me back in Sunnyside. And I went to the motel, got something to smoke, put it in my mouth. I was going back to the truck to tell him that I didn't get nothing because I was going to go and do that by myself because he was waiting on money to come and on his card. And I was walking to the 18-wheeler to let him know that I was going to go back to the motel because I hadn't got anything. And there was a truck coming from the motel and had a trailer on the back of it. And I saw the truck, but I didn't realize that it had a trailer on it. And the trailer of the truck grabbed my T-shirt. And when it grabbed my T-shirt, it spun me around, and my face hit the 18-wheeler, and I fell on the ground in the street, and I was bleeding out my mouth. And I shook my hands and my legs and stuff, and you know, they were okay, but it was just my mouth. And I heard a young lady that was coming from the motel with the guy who hit me, and she was saying, "Take me home." And he left the scene of the accident and left me there. And I remember my daughter coming to the hospital and seeing me, and she said my head was so big until when she saw me, she thought I was dead. And so. But, you know, I sing. God gave me a voice to sing. I love Shirley Caesar. She's been a mentor to me all my life. Her songs, they're just, you know, I know, you know, that God blessed me today to be here, you know, to sing. And I sing in a choir and stuff. But it shifted 21 of my teeth. Some of my teeth came out. And I had 21 teeth pulled in 5 weeks. And so I have top and bottom dentures, and I have silver tooth on them that I paid for. And, you know, my life is a whole lot different today, and my life is worth living. I got, you know, gobs of grandkids. I got 20 grandkids and 5 great-grandkids, and, you know, and I'm Nanny, and I love that name, you know, and I love, you know, that I'm something to somebody today. And my life happened the way it did so I could have a story to tell.
A testimony.
I got a testimony, and hopefully it's going to help somebody that's listening today.
Okay, so I'm good for bagging up.
Go ahead.
Let's bag up. I want to say this. That man that drove off,
Yeah.
he left you, but God didn't leave you. Your teeth may have shifted, but that shifted your focus. Hey, your teeth may have shifted, but that shifted your focus.
Yeah.
So no matter what you go through, God will never leave you or forsake you.
So won't.
A man told me one day, we leave God. God don't leave us.
Yeah.
We abandon God. God don't abandon us.
Yeah.
So the day that man drove off in that truck, that was the best thing for you. Good. Bye.
Yeah.
Because it made your faith even stronger.
Well,
it shifted you.
Nikki, I actually thought that God had left me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I did. I had broken so many promises. God, I'm gonna get myself together, and I'm gonna take care of my kids and stuff like that, and I'm gonna do better. And before I realized that I was back doing the same old stuff, and when I came into the program of recovery, 12-step program, I really actually thought that God had washed his hands with me, you know, and that was just so far from the truth, you know, that God loves me and he cares for me and he wants the best for me, you know, and I had to learn that, you know, through the program that people say the same thing God done for me, you know, he'll do for you. And I didn't believe that, but I found out that that's true.
Mm-hmm. That is true. And when you're going through these testimonies and You go through these storms, afflictions, or whatever the case may be. In that moment, I think the human side of you, you are going to think that God has abandoned you. But eventually, you're going to get your trust back. You're going to get your faith back because that situation is going to turn. God has plans to prosper us, not to harm us. That's his promise. And I tell people all the time, I go to God all the time. God, is me, your disobedient child. It's me again. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do it your way. I'm ready now. We all fall off. I like to say we fall off. Mm-hmm. We all stray away from God. But one thing about it, our stories are different, but our paths wind up at the same place, back with God. And that's where I met Sheila, at church.
Yeah, we attend the same church.
So
and it's a house of hope and healing.
Yes.
It
and
really
that's what
is.
you have to keep your hope. Know that your healing is coming. Put in the work. Listen to God. Pray to God. And keep moving forward. So tell us, how did you end up from that hospital bed to recovery? Or was it at that moment that you decided to go to recovery?
Yeah, well, it was at that moment. It was at a lot of moments that I decided to go in recovery. I've been in 23, 24, 25 rehabs. And so I kept going into rehab, to do better. I mean, it was always something horrific that had to happen for me to go into recovery. It just a lot of bad things that can happen to a person when they're out in the streets on drugs and alcohol, not just for men, but for women, but that wasn't when I got sober. It wasn't when I got clean. Some more things had to happen. It was just a series of things that happened. But then when I look back, where I thought God didn't care about me, well, if God did not care about me, then he wouldn't have never brought me out of all of those situations that I got myself into. Mm-hmm. You see, because they say when you stay on Satan's saw too long, something is bound to happen. So I was on Satan's saw for a long time, over and over and over and over. And God kept bringing me out of those situations. Like the time I was incarcerated and I got a call from the chaplain and my granddaughter had passed away in a fire, in the VA apartments. And I had to call and I had to talk to my daughter and I couldn't be there. And they wouldn't let me out. I only had 2 weeks, 3 weeks to be left in jail, and they wouldn't let me out. And I wanted to be there for my baby. I wanted to be there for my daughter, but I couldn't be there. And so, it was just a lot of things that happened. Being put in the trunk car, driven around. I go back into treatment. Get back out. But Nikki, I think what my beginning point in being in recovery and in the 12 steps and doing better, I went to I think in prison they have something they call Safe P. I was in something similar to a Safe P, but it wasn't in jail. It was at Houston Recovery Campus, and it was on Lyons Avenue, and this was a 6-month to a year program. And when I went there, long time ago, I remember it was wintertime, and I walked in there with shorts on, and somebody told me to pick up something off the floor. It was 70 of us, men and women. We called each other sisters and brothers. Mm-hmm. No fraternizing, none of that. And they told me to pick it up, and I told them I wasn't going to pick it up. And then somebody else came after that, shortly after that, and say, "Sister, excuse me, can you please pick that up?" And I told them, I'm not picking that up. I just told them I wasn't picking it up. So what had happened was that I got wrote up for dialogue and feedback. I got wrote up, and I had to go, and I seen people standing in a line at the next door in this treatment facility, and I said, "What they standing in line for?" And somebody say, "That's where you got to go. You got to go get in that line." And so when I got in the line and I got to me, and I knocked on the door, and they said, "Who is it?" And I said, "This is, me." And they said, "Come in." And when I walked in, it was a half circle of my brothers and sisters, and they were there. And they told me about my attitude. They told me that it was going to kill me. They told me about my, not wanting to deal with authority figures. They told me that, the same way I came in that door, if I didn't want to be there, I could get my stuff and I could leave. And the things that they told me, it made my hair stand up on my head and on my arms, and they had a V chair. And they sit me in that V chair, and people was passing by, going about their business in the facility, and they had my back turned toward the people, and the people couldn't even look at me. They had to just gone on about their busy schedule, and I had to sit in that chair, and I had to remember and realize and think about why I done what I did that got me in that chair. And I'm talking 35 years old. I'm in a behavior modification program to learn how to act, and to learn how to accept things, and to learn how to be something that I never really was. I was learning how to be me. And I was learning how to be me. And I heard somebody say, it's like David with the sculpture of Michelangelo with the sculpture of David. And said, somebody asked him, how did you make that sculpture of David? He said it was simple. He said, I chipped away everything that wasn't David. And God chipped away everything that wasn't me and made me.
And that's
what happened.
That's recovery. That's how you come back to being whole. Now, I'm going to back up again. When you decide to take this journey to becoming whole, whether it's with addiction or whatever it is you're going through, remember, you're going to fall many times. But the key is get back up and keep trying. Don't stop. God is with you. You're going to fall. That's normal. But you get back up. Don't stay down. At some point, get up. The next step, I tell anybody in a healing process, you have to break yourself down layer for layer and figure out, why am I reacting this way? Why am I doing things? What is the problem?
You don't have to break yourself down.
You have to
to allow somebody else to break you down. You can't do it. I couldn't do it on my own.
You can't do it.
I had to allow God through people to break me down, because even in the 12-step program, Nikki, it's 12 steps. The first step is admitting that I got a problem, but the other steps is work that you actually have to do. Like step 2, I had to come to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity.
When I said break yourself down, self-evaluation. At some point, you asked yourself, why am I here?
Do I want to keep on living like this?
Yes. For me, I didn't have that group of people that I could go to and say, okay, that were coming to me, telling me things. I had a group of people that was in the dark. So I had to sit down and go to my God, but I had to sit down and self-evaluate myself. And if you're that person and you don't have that group, I'm asking you to just ask yourself that question. Pray to God to guide your steps, and he can guide you in the right direction. Now, that first verse that I read about being with corrupt people, no, you want to be around knowledgeable people that has already probably been through what you're going through and know what you could do to help yourself. But if you continue to be around people that's doing the same crazy stuff that you was doing before, it's serving no purpose. Now, when you went and did the 12 steps, the first thing is acceptance. That's self-reflection. I got to accept that I'm in these situations. I'm accepting I'm doing these things. But the key is why. Your lack of wanting to take authority, you already told us that as a child, you never spoke up. You never did things. So as an adult, you made sure you didn't care what it was. You spoke up in that moment. But people on the outside don't know that. They just see, like, why is she so defensive? You know, what's wrong with her? Why she so angry? You get that all. I used to get that all the time. Ooh, she's so quiet because I was never allowed to talk. I was always told to shut up. So as an adult, I'm just quiet.
I think that nobody, my story is, and I'm gonna say this, but this is how I feel. I felt like nobody never even cared to even ask me what was wrong. I think that everybody, especially in my family, just see me as a person who was on drugs and who did this and who did that, and and her kids is the same way, and this and this. My kids like that because they come from a dysfunctional family, but I'm trying to learn how to be functional and a productive member of society every day. Yes. So, but I never had nobody to say, what you went through. How can I help you? How can I help you stay, positive? How can I help you with something? I ain't never had a new car. I ain't never had a car in my name. I ain't never had a house in my name. I ain't never had nobody to say, hey, Sheila, or what do you need? You need to talk. Let's sit down. Let's see what's going on. I think it's just been swept up under the rug. It's just been swept up under there, swept up under there. But I do think that people are aware of it because, in my circle, I don't see a lot of people around. I don't see kids and stuff around going to different places and stuff like that. People keep their kids, off to themselves, and me and my kids and my grandkids and my great-grandkids. Whenever we do something or have a get-together, it's just us. Mm-hmm. It's never cousins and aunties and uncles, and then when it's stuff like that, we kind of shy away from it. We just stay doing what we do.
If that's your family and you're listening right now, you really can't control what other people do, but you can control what you do with your family. So if you feel like your family is distant and y'all not together, then make sure you put that togetherness in your kids or / grandkids, so your family going forward in the future will be together. Make sure you teach your children how to communicate and acknowledge emotions. I did a podcast on how to validate, make sure that that person's feelings are validated and important. Then you educate. A lot of us didn't get that. We wasn't taught how to be angry. We wasn't taught be sad, because they would say, oh, what you mad for? Go sit down. Mm-hmm. You're not validating my feelings. You're not acknowledging. So going forward in the new generation that we are leaving, a legacy we leaving behind, let's leave a legacy of knowledge about emotional and mental well-being. That's important.
Yeah, and just think about it. What if you're telling, if your normal thing, as soon as your kid come around and they pouting or something like that, and you tell them, go sit down somewhere. What if they trying to tell you something? What if you pushing them away? Oh, if I tell her, she gonna pop me in my lip, or she gonna no. You sometimes, it's real important to listen, because the person who you think might be the closest person to them might be somebody that they might need to tell you about. I don't trust nobody around my kids. I make sure that wherever they go, I go. I make sure that whenever they're out and about inside my house, there's nobody there that's around them where I'm going to go and use the bathroom or go and lay down in my room while a stranger is at the house visiting my grandkids, one of their friends, and I'm going to leave the baby in there while they're in the bathroom. I would never do nothing like that. I would never do nothing like that again.
That's the life we lead sometimes, that fear. I'm not doing that because I want to prevent that from happening. But like I said, the generational curses of not being taught to deal with your emotions, or putting a stigma on going to seek help. We need help. Some things our parents don't know. And they were doing the best that they could, but whatever emotion they had or whatever they had were taught, they pass it on to us. But now that we know better, it's time that we do something with that knowledge. And that is pass it on to our kids, our grandkids, so they can pass it on and on and on. But if we keep sweeping everything under the rug, or we keep acting like everything's okay when it's not okay, if we keep not validating our children's feelings and how they feel, they are human. They have emotions. They may be 6 or 7, but they have emotions, and they need to be taught how to deal with them. If you're an adult right now and you haven't been taught, it's okay to seek help. How else are you going to learn? And if you don't know and you need wisdom, go get your Bible. Any question you have is in that Bible. It's an answer for it. But you got to be willing to receive the answer that you get. Mm-hmm. I can remember a long time ago feeling alone, abandoned. That's when I learned that God would never leave me. And I have never felt alone again. Even in the worst situations, I have people come to me, Nikki, well, how do you deal with that? I don't worry about it because I know God in control anyway. He ain't going to let nothing happen that I can't handle. I done digress to something else. But I'm just saying it's important to learn about these emotions and how to deal with them, because once you experience the unhealed trauma, we just heard 30 years. And one day someone actually took her in. She went into a facility, and it took for somebody else to tell her, hey, this is going on with you. If you don't have that group of people around you that's going to be honest with you, you need to find a new group. Once again, find you some knowledgeable people, some people that's going to give you some wisdom. When I was going through my depression, when I did decide to go out, it was only to be amongst people that I felt had positive energy, something positive to give me that I could soak up. Sometimes that's just simple as Bible study at church. Mm-hmm. Remember, they said I was always quiet, but I always showed up because I needed that feed, and I needed that. I never talked about what was going on with me, but I just needed that. And you're going to need the same thing. You have to find that place. I don't know what that place is for you. Everybody's different, but it's up to you to figure that out. If you need to seek professional help, you can do that too. If you're looking for someone to talk to, you can go to internalevolutions.com, and I'll be glad to sit down and talk with you. I'll be glad to be your accountability partner. I'll be glad to listen at your story. You don't necessarily have to come on this podcast. We can talk one-on-one if that's what you feel like you need. But the important thing is to start. You have to start somewhere. Once again, God didn't say the weapons wouldn't form.
Right.
He said it wouldn't prosper. Mm-hmm. So, 1 Corinthians 10 and 13, your spiritual muscle. No temptation has overtaken you that is not coming to man. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, he will also provide the way of escape, that you may be able to endure it. So that verse that I chose reminds me of Sheila's story of how she got hit by that truck. And she said that her daughter thought that she was going to die. But God provided her a way out. And he will do the same for you. But you got to be willing to trust and just grow all of these muscles that I'm telling you going forward.
And you know what, Nikki? I'm just want to throw this in. You know, this is a gold nugget right here. One of my biggest problems was I was trying to, after everything I had been through, in the almost end before I got sober, I was trying to be normal like other people, and I wasn't even normal.
Define you trying to be normal like other people. What does that mean?
Everybody hasn't been through what I've been through. Mm-hmm. So because everybody hasn't been through what I've been through, nobody could relate. Mm-hmm. I was trying to be like the Joneses. I was trying to dress. I was trying to, you know, go to parties around people who drank and I ain't have no business going around nobody that at a party where people was drinking. Now it's a little bit better since I have a little over 9 years sobriety. I mean, because I have family members that drink, but I found that I'm not like normal people. I suffer with major depression, with recurring psychosis. I have general anxiety disorder. I'm diagnosed with PTSD, you know. So I had to, you know, when you're taking medicine and you're in a 12-step program, it's called dual diagnosed. So I'm dual diagnosed. Not only am I in recovery, but I also have to take medicine. I had to seek professional help because I had some things in my brain chemistry and everything, and my body chemistry was all thrown off because of what I had been through, and I needed some professional help. So now I take, and then with being on the streets all those years and all of that stuff, I put a lot of wear and tear on my body, and I take about 11 medicines a day, including high blood pressure, diabetes, COPD, just a whole lot of stuff that I take medicine for. But I had to realize that I'm not like normal people. I need to take care of myself. I don't have to be like the next person. I can take one day at a time. I could take 1 minute at a time. I could take 1 second at a time. I don't have to do what the next person doing. I don't have to go over here. If I don't feel like going over there, I'm not going to go over there. I don't have to go over there because people want me to go over there or people want me to show up. If I don't feel comfortable and I just don't feel it in my skin to go, it's okay for me not to go. I don't have to pretend to be somebody that I'm not because I'm really just learning who I am.
That's self-care.
I have self-care. I'm just really learning who I am. And guess what? I'm a pretty cool person.
I think so.
But you know what?
Yeah.
I'm 63, and a lot of things that most 63-year-old women been through, I haven't even experienced it yet. And sometimes I want to beat myself up because of that. But I don't, because I know my life. If you look at my Social Security paperwork, a lot of the years say 0, 0, 0, 0. And I have to be the one to say, golly, those zeros are there because I didn't work those years. And then it come back, oh, you didn't work those years because you was on the streets. Oh, well, you was on the streets because this happened to you. So it'll back me all the way back up if I'm not careful.
Yes.
But I'm okay. I mean, I'm okay.
I met a lady, and we're going to wrap. I met a lady, and she said, I was asking her something. I think I was asking her, she was talking about dating or something. So I asked her, I said, so are you dating? She said, you know what? I'm in the okay phase of my life. I said, what do you mean, the okay phase? She said, I'm okay with my life. I'm okay if I don't want to go out. I'm okay if I want to sit in my house. I'm in the okay phase of my life. So that's where you are right now.
I'm in the okay phase.
Yeah.
I don't have I got some grandkids in 2020. That were in the state's custody. God blessed me to be able to get them. I don't have a boyfriend. I don't have a man. I don't go out to clubs. I don't, sleep around with people. And
that's okay.
Nobody has never woke up at my house where my grandkids could say, Nanny, who is that? Ain't nobody, So it's just some standards that I have that, that I just have in place right now.
Boundaries.
Yeah,
are
I have
important.
boundaries.
Boundaries for yourself and consequences for those boundaries. So important. Validation, seeking validation from others. Like she said, I was the same person. Nikki, you want to go out? In my mind, I'm thinking, I just want to lay down. But no, I'm going to go anyway. No, you don't need the validation of other people to be you. To be you is so much easier. It's so much more peaceful. When you discover who you are. I run into so many people that say, what is self-care? What is that? One lady said something to me too, and I'm going to talk about it eventually. She talked about the scripture that says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. How you going to love your neighbor when you're not even loving yourself? Tell me that. So it all starts with you, with you. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I want to wish all of you peace, love, and light. If you need more help, once again, you can go to internalevolutions.com and book a discovery session. They are free, and we can sit down and we can talk. So once again, I will talk to you next week.